So should you be concerned about buying a high mileage used car? Of course, you should be concerned about buying any used car, right? But the mileage part it doesn't tell you a lot about the car. It just tells you, you know, how much it's been driven, right? How far it's been driven. So judging a car by that is simply kind of silly. You know, cars with 80,000 miles, like, oh, lower mileage car, I'm gonna buy that for sure. 100,000, 120,000, you're like, yeah, I'm still buy that. Car's still got a lot left in it. As soon as you get to 160, and just for another 40,000 miles, 160, 180,000 miles, a lot of people are just like, oh, not touching it. The car is done. You know, that's not always the case. Depending on the car, you know, if it's a Dodge or something, yeah, probably. but you know, our Japanese cars and stuff, not always the case. And there's some stuff you just need to know. So the reason I'm making this video and why it's fresh in my mind is because I'm trying to sell this Honda Civic I got. It's a really nice car. It's kind of blown out there. You can't see. It's a 2008 Civic. It's got 186,000 miles on the body, but I bought it with a cracked engine block, and Honda still has that under warranty for another 10 years from the sale date, and they put a brand new engine in it for free. So I drove it straight from the auction to the Honda dealer. They put a new engine in it, and nobody really bid it against me on it. That's what's crazy is all these used car dealers and stuff. You'd think used car dealers know a lot about cars. It's not the case. They don't. They know nothing. These people are always asking me stuff about cars. Like, what do you think about this? Like, they're dead serious because they know I know stuff. I buy all the cars with problems and I fix them. But I took this straight from the auction, drove to the Honda dealer, and they put a brand new engine in it for free. So we know the engine's good. What's your concern after that? Because I get people calling me now for sale. They're like, how many miles are on it? 186,000. They're like, all right, see ya. And, you know, they're not interested in the car anymore. So, and that's silly. Like, it's got a brand new engine. Like, whoa. They're telling me they don't know anything about cars is what they're saying. You know, not diving in any further than that. You know, like what's the transmission like, etc. What's your only other concern besides the engine? It's going to be the transmission, right? Now, something I definitely want people to understand is that it is possible for a car to have higher miles and the transmission to not have much wear on it at all, really. This is called highway miles, and you hear about highway miles a lot. People are like, oh, highway miles, and some people say it as a joke, like 300,000 highway miles, like we're say it as a joke to each other, like, yeah, we bet. But it can actually be true. For instance, this car was owned by people that lived in the middle of nowhere. So they had to drive at high speeds on freeway type situations to get everywhere they went. So that's why it's got a lot of miles on it. And this doesn't wear your transmission out very much because it gets into high gear and stays in that gear, and the torque converter lock up and overdrive, etc. And it's not going through the gears and wearing out the clutch packs. So that's what really wears your transmission out, what will cause it to slip. And that's a great theory, right? But they've also changed the transmission fluid in this, all of it's come out of the torque converter. You know, normally you do a transmission fluid change, you don't get all of it out, there's still some old one in there. That's 100% new fluid in that car, and it still shifts like it's a brand new car, right? So the transmission is 100% solid, and that's when you will know if a transmission is weak, is when you change the fluid. Because sometimes the old fluid with the grit in it that's worn off the clutch packs can be what's keeping it from slipping. So when you put brand new fluid in transmission and it's still strong, you know it's good to go. And then besides, like, I'll tell these people, I'm like, dude, worst case scenario, I mean, these transmission, get transmission for this car for $300, like, all day, right? Anyways, but not that you're ever gonna have to change it. This thing is gonna go to 300,000 miles with just oil changes and brake pads easily. It'll go to 400 with some extra stuff, some wheel bearings and stuff, right? But back to about buying a high mileage car, let me give you some pointers here. I'm gonna stop talking about my car, my situation. What's the first thing you should be concerned about? Of course, the engine. Now, there's different brands and stuff. You got timing belts. If you have a timing belt, of course, you're gonna want to be concerned about that. Some people are over crazy analyze about that. I've had cars with timing belts. I didn't know if they were changed or not. I drove it to 230,000 miles, and who knows? I got it 120,000 miles, put another 100,000 miles on it. I don't think the timing belt was ever changed, and I had no problems, right? The car's still running today, probably. Someone sold it to somebody. But of course, you should be concerned about that. A lot of cars today have timing chains. Honda switched to a timing chain, which, with all my car knowledge, I did not know that. 06, they switched. The Civic's got a timing chain. That blew my mind. I'm like, whoa, when did they do that? So that's awesome. Timing chain don't break, so you never have to service that. Of course, listen to the engine. You know, if it's making any odd noises, you know, be more wary about that. cars do make ticking sounds. When people understand that, valve trains, dual overhead cam engines make a ticking sound. You're never gonna get away from that, right? So people hear that don't know anything about cars, like tick 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 tick. Like, it shouldn't be loud, but it's there. It's a little ticking sound. If it sounds abnormally loud, or there's other sounds with it, then yeah, you have a problem. But there's always a ticking sound with overhead cam. And then of course transmission, like I said, you know, that you got to drive the car and see how it shifts. If it's slipping, which means it's not going directly into gear, it's going, the RPMs go up between gears, you know, or some other type of abnormality. Or when you take it from park and put it in drive, it takes a minute to actually go into drive. You know, that's a red sign the transmission's going out too. Stuff like that, you always know. But let me tell you, I've had better luck with higher mileage cars than cars with 80 to 100,000 miles or 120,000. I bought plenty of cars with 100,000 miles or so. The problem is they're still on all the original suspension components usually at that, and it's still okay. But you keep driving it some more, another 10, 20,000 miles or so, your front end is completely loose, you know, and then you got to replace all that stuff. That's one thing about higher mileage cars that I have better luck with them, I'm going to be honest, because all that stuff has probably been replaced by then. You'll know it. If it hasn't, you get in the car and you drive it, everything's going to be loose, you're going to be rattling and all this stuff. You'll know it. You will 100% know it. So that's one thing you should definitely know. Now, I'm kind of brand picky about some of this stuff, like a Dodge Chrysler. Don't even, unless it's like a truck. You know, if you got a Ram with a Cummins or something in it, yeah, those are good. But all their cars and stuff, I think the best thing they've made, I actually got one. It's a van, a Dodge Caravan. It's got the 3.3 V6 in it. Probably the best engine. Modern engine, of course, not, you know, not old school Hemi stuff, but just like basic cheap engine that they put in their cars. Very reliable engine there. Probably the best of the pushrod V6s out of GM and Ford from that era. Doesn't leak coolant, doesn't leak anything. It's got 158,000 miles on that van right now. I drive it every day, no issues at all. So that's a good engine. Other than that, not a big fan of the car. Other stuff, GM like Chevy, Pontiac, you know, etc., Saturn, etc., can be hit or miss. It depends. Generally, like the Ecotec 4-cylinder and stuff, it's a good engine. That'll go forever. Their transmissions, pretty strong. Depends. Again, you know, they're really in the middle there. The V6s, no, I mean, you know, like the 3100, 3400 for old school, they'll run forever, but they have some problems. Gaskets leaking, coolant, intake gasket, etc. The newer ones, decent. Again, not that great. I wouldn't drive it for, I wouldn't expect it to go 250,000 miles personally, probably. Ford's doing really well, in my opinion. I've had a few Fusions, 08, 09 Fusions or so, 07, etc. The Ford Duratec that I have in my Ranger, it's a 2.3 Duratec, and all, you know, they make them in 2 liter, 2.5 liter. The 4-cylinder, excellent engine, man. Timing chain, you know, that engine will go forever. My Ranger has 200,000 miles on it. Engine is perfect. You know, the thing's gonna keep going and going. And when it doesn't, I'll rebuild it or get another one or something. I'll probably rebuild it. 300,000 miles or so. Like I said, that's gonna go forever. Transmissions, all the Fusions I've had, I had one with 180,000 miles. Transmissions rock solid. You know, they keep going and going these days. And it depends, like highway miles or not. Now, sometimes, like my mom, for instance, she drives purely city. She doesn't drive on the freeway. You get these people sometimes. Her car still has lower miles because of that, but it's stopping and going. It's constantly stopping and going. She has a Corolla with a CVT transmission, so this is a thing. Like her car's only got 70,000 miles now. Someone will go look at that car and be like, "Oh, low miles. I'm gonna buy that in a second." No, I wouldn't. I'm going to tell you why. Because it's got that CVT transmission, and she's stopping and going all the time, flooring it when she takes off at every stop sign, and it's got a touchy throttle. It's not really her fault. Those cars are very touchy, and that CVT belt is going to wear out eventually, and the transmission too. So it's just a lot of stopping and going. So this is what I'm saying. People have the bias against high mileage cars when it may actually be the better car, because if this car just gets on the highway and you're in one gear and driving, you know, you're not wearing stuff out like that. like these city drivers do. It's stop, go, stop, go, stop. Every freaking mile is stop, go on the car, and that's hard miles on your car, on your transmission, on your everything. So yeah, I guess in closing, you just gotta look at the car. Like I said, you'll know it when you get in and drive it if it's been taken care of. You take it down the road and the front end's rattling and steering's loose, etc. Then yeah, it's probably still on its original front end ball joints or struts, tie rods, etc. All that stuff. Sometimes that can just be a sway bar link end too rattling, so you got to kind of know that sometimes. If it's just that, it's not that big of a deal. Those are really easy to fix, but in general, yeah, again, that's a good indicator. And if you get a higher mileage car, sometimes, like I said, that stuff may have a lot of this stuff already been repaired, so it's good to go for a lot longer than, you know, my worst luck with cars have been 100 to 120,000 mile cars. When you get them and they're just wearing out all the original stuff, and it's like, oh, I got whole front end's got to be replaced, ball joints, upper ball joint, lower ball joint, tie rod end, inner tie rod, everything. You know what I mean? So this is what I'm saying. People have the bias against higher mileage cars. Sometimes it may be the better deal, especially if you're looking for a car just to buy as a beater, last you a year or two. Definitely look at higher mileage cars. You might get lucky. Still be smart about it, but know if, you know, drive it around. If it's making a lot of noise and stuff, obviously stray away from it. But don't just have a bias up against buying a car just because of the mileage. I think that's what I'm trying to say here. You know, it's also like what stuff wears out on a car, right? I don't know people that don't know a lot about cars. Do they not know what stuff wears out? Do they think? I don't know what they think. I can't imagine it. But you have your engine, you have your transmission, you got wheel bearings, you know, you got ball joints and brakes, brake rotors, brake pads. This is about all that wears out on a car typically. That's a big deal. Radiator, I mean, again, this stuff, mileage doesn't affect stuff like that. Electronics, etc. Not really. I mean, maybe power windows and stuff. Not in a Honda. That stuff really solid in Hondas especially. So none of that stuff goes wrong, man. All the wear stuff, yeah, of course. Mileage, again, is irrelevant for the rest of the car. So, like I said, just freaking know what you're doing with cars. People don't know enough about cars. It blows my mind sometimes. I go to those auctions, I'm like, yeah, when I first started going there a long time ago, I'm like, yeah, I bet all these used car dealers, they know all this stuff. So I start chit-chatting with them about cars, like technical stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't know about the intake gasket on this V6 here, man. They're like, well, they have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm like, dude, this is like, I'm talking about the most common stuff ever with these cars. They have no idea about any of this stuff. So like I said, used car dealers don't even know about cars. So I don't expect anyone else to.